All right. Good morning. Good morning, wherever you are. It might be morning for you. It might be evening. It might be afternoon, whatever. Good day to you, and welcome to this live stream. I'm happy to be with you guys. I always like hanging out with you guys. And what I'm going to go over today is 5 logical fallacies holding you back in life. And it's funny because here's part of my mission. Part of my mission is to make critical thinking and actually thinking and these thought experiments and these ways of thinking, mental models, more actually relevant to our lives. Because for decades, for even for now, now what's the stereotype is that when we think about logic, when we think about clear thinking, we think about what? Some snooty academic, right? Some snooty academic. And I will tell you, I do have an academic background. I have a highly academic background. I'm a peer-reviewed value theorist, meaning I went through the whole research and review process, internal review, external review, publication to study and publish on logic and publish on these kinds of topics of clear thinking. So basically, and also went into business though to use these concepts. That's the thing. It's important to understand that there are real world applications to clear thinking and logic and logical thinking. And I'm going to show you guys today. I'm actually going to go. So for those of you who are on TikTok, you don't see my slides. For those of you who are on YouTube live, you guys see my slides. But basically, I'm going to show you how to apply these logical principles to our everyday lives, and why, when we don't have these principles, when we're not using these principles, they radically affect our lives in ways we don't even realize. So what's the main problem? And I see it especially in the success guru arena, right? And I'm also not somebody who will badmouth people. I'm not going to say like, oh, Alex Hormozi is horrible, if you know who that is. Right? No, I actually really like Alex Hormozi. I like, a lot of the success gurus. But the thing is that we have to admit that the problem is that most of this success advice is based on logical fallacies. It's actually based on logical fallacies. We can have, and we're going to take a look here. And the reason this is important is because we're taking this advice, and then we're making inferences about what to do with our own life from this advice. And let's go through an example here, right? So here's the first claim. If you have a structured daily routine, you'll become successful. That's a pretty straightforward claim, right? Makes sense. Let's go to the next premise. Jeff Bezos is successful. All right, so we say Jeff Bezos is successful. Therefore, Jeff Bezos has a structured daily routine. Now, it happens to be true, right? Jeff Bezos does talk about his structured daily routine, but there are so many counterexamples to this. If you guys know Mark Manson, I love Mark Manson. I love what he's about. Go look him up. But Mark Manson he wrote the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, right? Really, really great stuff. But the thing is that he talked about, in order to build my multi-million-dollar internet business, right, online business, I did not have a daily structured routine. My structured routine was get up, eat Skittles, drink some soda, and lounge on the bed. And, it was not through necessarily this structured routine. Now, am I saying that it's not a good idea to have a structured routine? Yes, it's a good idea, but we can make some bad inferences in our own lives based on this logic. And what is this called? This fallacy number one. It's fallacy number one here. It's called affirming the consequent. And it's affirming the consequent. And I know it's kind of sounds academic, but it's important to learn these things and just wrap our heads around them and get to know them a little bit so that we can be armed for the next time we see a claim like this. Because they're all over the place. You go on YouTube and you go on TikTok, everywhere, little clips, and these claims the structure of these claims is everywhere. We see them everywhere. So fallacy number one is affirming the consequent. Affirming the consequent is a formal logical fallacy that takes a true statement and then invalidly infers its converse. So we saw an example. Let's take another example of this, all right, that you might see. Okay, so you see your coworker, they're building up their income, maybe doing a side hustle, and you see, okay, my coworker, if my coworker makes 10K per month, they say they'll be able to afford a bigger house, and that may be true, right? If your coworker makes 10K a month, an extra 10K a month, or whatever, they'll be able to afford a bigger house. Great. So then, what you conclude is, I'll make 10K per month, right? I'll make 10K per month. I'll seek to do that as well, right? But then the conclusion is I will be able to afford a bigger house. Actually, it doesn't follow logically. It doesn't follow logically. And there are many, many counterexamples. And you say, oh, well, yeah, but it's generally true, even though if it's not logically tight, logically and all that stuff, it's generally true. But here's the thing. If we don't think about those counterexamples, if we don't think about the potential other other things that could happen when you make 10K per month, for example, then guess what? You're going to make false assumptions. You're going to make bad decisions. Case in point. Is it actually true? Is it necessarily true that if you make that extra money, you will be able to afford a bigger house? Think about maybe if you don't plan for getting into extra debt, if you don't plan for getting into spending on additional things associated with the house that you didn't foresee. If you think about the area that you're living, I mean, there are so many things that people don't consider. Maybe it's not in your best interest to buy a bigger house, right? These are things that people don't consider, and they just hear the clips from success gurus, success influencers, and the problem is that these are not true. These are not true. Fallacy number two is denying the antecedent. So denying the antecedent is a logical fallacy that mistakenly concludes the negation of the blah, 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 blah. Okay. You can read. From my friends on TikTok here, you can't read, but basically I'm going to give an example. We had affirming the consequent, right? Now we have denying the antecedent. Let's go into what that looks like. So one example, here's just an example. There's just a simple example to start. But let's say exam score and intelligence. So let's say you assume that if someone gets a low score on their test, they must be unintelligent. Because if you're intelligent, right? Because the logic is if you're intelligent, you'll get a high test score. But it doesn't follow from that it doesn't follow at all. It doesn't follow at all that if you are unintelligent, you'll get a low test score, right? So, or you won't get a high test score, right? So it's denying the antecedent. So let's see more examples of this. And examples of how this influences our decision making when it comes to business, careers. So for instance, here's a statement: people who buy that stock get rich. Right? So we say, okay, people who buy this, they like get rich, or people who start this business, they're always getting rich, right? So, and you hear this all the time now with side hustles. I hate this idea, especially of like, oh, this one side hustle. And now it's like the trend is like tax lien side hustle, make money from, tax liens and stuff. I mean, it's always something new. Of course, there are lots of opportunities. All right. I'm not dissing the opportunities, but the logic behind how we decide on an opportunity, for example, is completely flawed. So, okay, if everybody's starting that side hustle, everybody's starting that thing and they're getting rich. So your conclusion is if I don't do this, if I don't do that business, if I don't do that side hustle, if I don't buy that stock, I won't get rich. False, right? Or I won't have as big of a chance to make money, right? That is actually false. And there are many counter examples to this. Again, we have to think about the counter examples. And guys, feel free to share, in the chat, in the comments, like what are some examples you've had in your own life of this kind of logic? Or like, has anybody ever convinced you to do something based on this logic? I'd love to hear about it, because, and have you ever successfully been convinced based on this logic, right? Have you ever been convinced to do something based on this logic and then it turned out really bad, right? Let me know, because this is affecting our lives. Okay, so I love this. This is this fallacy is called special pleading. Special pleading. Okay. All right. I love this. We see this all over the side hustle space. We see this all over. I'm actually gonna, well, no, you know what? You can read it first. You can read it, but we see this all over the success advice space, the self-help space. We see this all over, when people give success advice and, oh, I'm sitting here and I'm looking cool and I'm giving advice, right? Yeah, but what's the problem? This is when one participant in the discussion excuses their argument from the rules applied to another by claiming special circumstances. So let me give you an example of how this affects us in everyday life and in the success guru space, for example. So for example, okay, the success guru, let's say a success guru gives you this type of advice. And this type of advice is everywhere. We see this type of advice everywhere. If you do XYZ, you can't fail at, let's say, drop shipping. You can plug in anything. Thank you, Mark. Glad to have you. I hope you take something away from this, and I hope you empower yourself to be a better thinker and live a better life. So thanks, Mark. Anytime. So let's say a success guru tells you, well, if you do XYZ, you follow these steps, you can't fail at drop shipping. Have you ever seen any of these Instagram reels or TikToks, or, follow these 5 steps and you'll get rich at drop shipping? Okay. Fair enough. And then you say, all right, you come back and I say, I'm going to do those things. I'm going to follow those steps. And you say, good evening to you, Nikhil. Yeah. Good evening to you. Good morning for me. I did those things. All right. I successfully did those things. But then the success guru tells you, well, but you failed. Right. And you say, I failed. I forgot to include that. I did those things, but I failed. You said these things work. Do these 5 things. Right? And this happens again and again and again. This is why people get so fed up with side hustle BS. I'm sorry to say, but it's really true. So the success guru says, oh, well, but did you also do XYZ? Well, you didn't. So let's say in drop shipping. No, you didn't optimize your ad though in this specific way. That's why you failed. Well, but you didn't say that in the first 5 steps, that's part of the first 5 steps, right? All right. Hey, Hare. Yes. Welcome. Thank you. You didn't say that was included in the first 5 steps. So they're always moving the goalpost. There's always that's what special pleading means. If we go back to this slide, that's what special pleading means. The logical fallacy of special pleading. You're always moving the goalpost. If you failed, let's say in an endeavor, in some success advice, right? They'll just say, oh, you're not working hard enough. Oh, you didn't do this. Oh, you didn't speak like this. Oh, you should have done this differently. Oh, you needed to have this special connection. It's always some special pleading, right? Do you see? So that's the problem. So fallacy number 4, and we can overcome this though. I'll talk about how to overcome these things. Fallacy number 4, the Texas sharpshooter. I love the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, because the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, it's actually got a good ring to it. It's got a good name to it. For the record, I love Texas barbecue. If you've ever been to Texas and, go to Dallas and they have the best barbecue, maybe, there are other people from Texas who disagree with me, or from different places who disagree with me, but great barbecue. So the Texas sharpshooter, this is when we take a look at, in order to make our point, it's kind of like cherry picking, right? We look at the clusters of data, right? We zoom in. Well, thank you, Hare. So we zoom in on these little data clusters, and we focus on the data cluster that proves our point. right? It proves our point. It's kind of like it's a form of actually selection bias. If you've ever heard of selection bias. So this happens in success outcomes a lot, success with success gurus. If you've ever, hey, Prithviraj, welcome. So if you've ever heard of, Kansas City, is Kansas City barbecue pretty good? Okay, well, where are you from, Mark? Are you from a place that has good barbecue or not? I shouldn't say that. Maybe maybe you're from a place that has really good barbecue. Kansas City, I'll have to check it out. I love to travel. So yeah, anyway, so selection by Sacramento. Oh, Sacramento. Okay. Well, they have good food there everywhere in Sacramento. You're up early, though. You're up very early. So anyway, the Texas sharpshooter. So one form of this is that people watch out for testimonials, okay? Testimonials are used everywhere in marketing. I just want to talk about this. Testimonials are used everywhere in marketing. Testimonials meaning this person did this program, did this thing, and they, made $10,000. Okay, but what are they doing? They're using the Texas sharpshooter. They're using a form of selection bias. They're zooming in on the ones that succeeded. What about all the other ones, right, that didn't succeed, right? It's very easy to use one, but we're very, very convinced by that logic. It's totally illogical, but we're convinced by that logic. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to listen to a testimonial. Sometimes testimonials are relevant. So for instance, if you are going to a restaurant and you want to look at a review, obviously I'm going to look at a review because that's subjective, right? But if we want to know, what the outcome is going to be of some process, and we're going to pay some money for it, right? We should have actual data. We should have data. If they don't have data in the program that they're offering, right, it's fine, right? Some programs are very new. I've got a new program, right? But so they should at least have some structure or some logic behind why it would work a certain way. And don't worry, I don't have a success guru program, but I do have a skill development program. I will talk about that at the end. So briefly, all right, I will pitch my little thing, but it's all good. I do have something to share at the end. But so success guru, people in the top 1% of real estate sales have done thousands of sales appointments to get there. Okay, it's technically true, right? It's technically true. But the implication is here, if you do this too, you're going to get their results. What did they leave out, though? What's the fact that they left out? Most people in that top 1% have also either had a large network or they have previous sales experience, right? So that's a big differentiator here, right? Okay. And then number 5 is the gambler's fallacy. Oh my gosh. We see this so much. We see this so much in success advice stuff out there. The gambler's fallacy. So the gambler's fallacy is, I'm just going to, I'll explain this without you can read it if you want. You can close up. But I'm going to explain this without this. The gambler's fallacy. So in probability, right? Intuitively, we kind of feel like what? If we roll a dice, or if we flip a coin a certain amount of times, we or let's say roll a dice, or let's say so it's the gambler's fallacy, right? So we go into a casino. The gambler's fallacy literally is that, where let's say you spin the wheel, and you say, the more I do it, the more times I do it. It's just a numbers game. The more I do it, the higher my chances that I'm going to get the outcome that I want. That's not true. That's not true from a probability standpoint. Every single round that you do on the wheel, or in, let's say, a casino or anything, flipping a coin, rolling dice, every single one has the same probability of outcome. But what is the problem? Let's take a look. Here's an example of how this is used in like the success advice, side hustle, whatever kind of thing, right? They'll say the more repetitions you do of something, the more it increases your chances of success. Have you ever heard that? Put it in the chat if you have ever heard that. Okay, I want you to tell me if you have ever heard that. I'm sure you have. Now, does it have some truth to it? Okay, does it have some truth to it? Yes, it does have some truth to it. Okay, but it's more nuanced than that. Most of us will listen to advice like that and take it as for what it's like, take it at face value. And the problem with taking that advice at face value is that we end up doing that. We end up repeating the same thing again and again and again and again. And why am I not succeeding? I was told that I have to do it enough times, and if I do it enough times, I will succeed. Well, here's the thing. Here's a more nuanced version. Here's what really is the case. Repeating an action itself will not increase the chances of success, okay? Yes, we can use failure to learn, but we need deliberate adjustments as we learn. And what it does is, what the repetitions do with small adjustments is they help to increase our skill level. So for instance, as I'm figuring out, Juliana, we need to be persistent to succeed. Yes, Juliana, yes. So hopefully, Juliana, you're and welcome. You're walking away with a little bit more of a nuanced version of this, right? Repeating an action itself does not lead to success. We need to continuously learn from the action, adjust from it, but we also need to target how we adjust. And a lot of success advice does not talk about that, nuance, okay? So hopefully, here's the thing. Am I being needlessly critical here? I hope you guys feel I'm not being needlessly critical. My goal is not to say, oh, you can't be successful, you can't do this. No, that's not what I want to say. I see, the better our reasoning is, the faster we can get to the truth behind all the real success factors. So like, I don't want to, the thing that I don't like is the oversimplification that we hear in bits and pieces on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram on what it takes to hit our goals. Whether our goals, it doesn't have to be entrepreneurship. It could be building a nonprofit. It could be being the next, amazing leader in some area. It doesn't matter. If we continue to believe these simplistic and convenient and nice sounding lies, and they are really lies, then we're really simply holding us back. So instead, we need critical thinking, right? Use our mind. Let's bring back this idea of using our mind to guide our personal growth, right? Critical thinking, being a better critical thinker. And so to that end, I do have, and I told you guys I was just going to share this briefly at the end, but I have some really great stuff you guys should check out. So this is the Elixir of Worthiness program I have, and this is a really amazing system, a series of courses that I've set up. I told you at the beginning, I have years and years of experience with teaching, training in both a sales capacity, but also in a professional, academic capacity as well. The link to this is in the chat here. I'm just putting it here in the chat. And then also, you can check out that link in the description below as well. So if you want to be better at writing, professional writing, you want to be better at networking and learn how to use that to your advantage in your profession or a business. If you want to learn how to get better at sales, right? I've led very successful sales teams in the past as well. And there are certain principles and ways to adjust that are not just oversimplistic, success guru motivational advice. There's some really practical stuff here. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check it out in that link. If not, feel free to, chill with me and continue to enjoy my content. And I hope you stick with me. I love hanging out with you guys. Really, really do. Every Wednesday, you will find me here and you can hang out with me. Bring me your questions. I love hearing from you all. So you guys are great. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Take care.